Alright guys, so the chip war has taken a dark turn and we should have all seen it coming. Now a week ago, we talked about US tech executives having a meltdown in Congress. They knew that the Biden curbs were not working and denying the rest of the world US AI chips was a mistake. By segregating the world to various tiers, you cut away a ton of revenue from global customers. But it actually goes beyond that and Microsoft explains it perfectly.
That will define whether the United States or China wins this race is whose technology is most broadly adopted in the rest of the world. This is a global market, and it will be defined as technology markets typically are by network effects. 18% of the people in the world live in China, 4% live in the United States, 78% live somewhere else. The lesson from Huawei and 5G is whoever gets there first will be difficult to supplant. We need to export with the right kinds of controls. We need to win the trust of the rest of the world. We need to have the financial architecture that gets not only to the countries that are industrialized, but the nations, say, across Africa, where typically China and Huawei have done so well.
Now, if we look back at what Trump did in the Middle East, it's obvious that he absorbed the message. His trip to Saudi Arabia and the UAE mainly revolved around AI chips. Now, the US realized this was their last trump card left, pun intended, to shape geopolitics. They also desperately need the revenue from the world to fund their R&D. Now, major deals were agreed upon during his Middle East trip. Nvidia was supplying hundreds of thousands of chips to Saudi Arabia's AI startup. AMD will also provide chips and software to the Saudis in a $10 billion project. The US has also promised to build data centers there as well, and let's assume all this will pan out. Now, on a strategic level, it's a good move. The US is trying to steepen the climb for China. They are trying to drive more revenue for US companies. But that's not all. They are also planning to get countries to build AI solutions on top of the technology and infrastructure to entrench the first mover's advantage. So I am giving the US a thumbs up here. But once again, they just did something stupid that will backfire and negate all the moves made. So we are going to give them another 10 thumbs down. The US is now warning countries against using Huawei chips anywhere in the world. The Commerce Department is moving to tighten export controls on technology that China makes. It's not even American tech, and they want to control what the world can buy or sell. Now, does this sound familiar? It's like the Russian oil sanctions all over again, but 100 times worse. Lutnick just ramped up the semiconductor war to 11, and this move is even worse than confiscating sovereign assets. Now, there's no conceivable way that China won't retaliate on this. It's very ridiculous because it sets up a precedent that the US can weaponize any product on planet Earth, something that they themselves don't make. Here's how serious this is. The Commerce Department says Huawei's Ascend chips are now subject to US export controls. The chips that are produced in Chinese factories are now under US jurisdiction. Why? Because they claim the chips are almost certainly made using American technology. Now, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but either way, this is a crazy leap to make. It's overreach that will backfire on the entire US economy. Here are the US orders to the world. The Huawei Ascend chips, the 910B to 910D series are the targets. Using them anywhere in the world, including Penguin Island, violates US export controls. Now, this stems from a place of deep insecurity. And let's keep it real, the US realizes that China eventually will catch up, and when they do, their chips will outcompete the US. And if we cut through the fog, here's the deal the US is probably going to give the world. It's basically a scene from The Godfather where you must kiss the ring. Now, welcome to phase 2 of the chip war. Countries that get on board might be given the Middle Eastern treatment. They could get access to the latest chips from Nvidia or AMD for their tech development. Now, sounds good. But here's the catch, you must reject chips from Huawei, and if you don't, we could enforce the export controls. We might punish your economy. Now, this will come in the form of secondary tariffs where your exporters across the board now face higher import taxes, or they might throw you to the lowest tier forever and ban you from buying US chips. Either outcome will be bad for your economy. It's a big warning to not just the EU but to many other countries in Asia and BRICS as well. However, here's the problem. If you take the implicit deal, you will lock your economy into the US tech ecosystem. you will foster a dependency of expensive US chips for a very long time. US production costs are high and it's only going to go up, everyone knows that. So you'll be paying much more for less. Now, I'm all for fair competition, but this move is blatantly unfair and is trying to contain the entire Chinese economy. And guess what? This won't cripple Chinese tech progress. It will just galvanize the entire industry and ecosystem to innovate faster to reach the tipping point, and they can reach the end goal without US help at all. What do you think China has been doing with their trillion-dollar surplus? Through their state investment fund, China has built a self-sufficient chip network for Huawei. From memory and logic chips to the chip makers themselves, everything can be done in-house in a Chinese ecosystem. Now sure, some machines are coming from ASML and Tokyo Electron, but it's just a matter of time before local lithography machines are made. Now, Lutnick's move is only going to get Beijing to increase funding for the Huawei ecosystem. They will pile hundreds of billions of dollars more to compete with the US. Now, given this, do you really think the trade negotiations will go well? Now, maybe Trump is trying another angle to his out of the deal, threaten export controls on Chinese tech might be a new bargaining chip. But here's why this will fail. It will backfire because China doesn't just have the ability to produce chips, they also have the demand side of the equation. Their economy is so enormous that they can self-fund their own progress. Now in 2022, China imported nearly $40 billion worth of chips a month. That's around half $500 billion worth of semiconductors. The majority are, of course, from Taiwan and South Korea. And thanks to Trump's new restrictions, we can expect US companies to throttle their exports to Beijing. Now, Chinese demand is huge, like a tsunami of money. Getting capital from the rest of the world is definitely helpful, but even if many countries comply with the US, it just won't halt their progress of their own AI chip development. Now, just last year, China also imported $26 billion worth of chip makers in just 7 months, January to July. So now imagine $500 billion of demand flowing back to support Huawei and the local ecosystem. And just like the DeepSeek shock, we shouldn't underestimate what the Chinese can accomplish. Imagine that amount of domestic demand plus state funding from Beijing. It might be enough money for self-sufficiency. Even Jensen from Nvidia realizes the potential of the Chinese market. Now, despite Trump's semiconductor curbs, the company is finding ways and means to sell chips into China.
China is a very large market. It's probably going to be a $50 billion AI market in a couple of 2-3 years. It would be a tremendous loss not to be able to address it as an American company. It's going to bring back revenue, it's going to bring back taxes, it's going to create lots of jobs here in the United States. And of course, we just have to stay agile.
Now, it's a clear sign that Nvidia realizes that without selling into the Chinese market, Huawei will eventually catch up. Now, this is a country with over 1 billion people and a rising consumer class. So the exploding demand for smartphones and gadgets will force Huawei to build more powerful chips. It's all organic from here. And that's why Nvidia is planning to build a new R&D facility in Shanghai. The new center will be researching the demands of Chinese customers in order to create a new chip just for the Chinese market. Now, this just increases the odds of China catching up with the US in a chip war. Local Chinese talent will be trained, the ecosystem will get stronger, and indirectly, Huawei will benefit as well. Now, this just confirms the potential of the entire market. They have the biggest chip demand in the world. Beijing's best move is to actually embrace US export controls and double down on what they are doing. But we shouldn't be surprised if they one day decide to retaliate. Well, remember China reversing their rare earth export controls on the US? Well, that can always U-turn once again. And if you think things was this bad, Trump just took everything to the next level. Now recall the trade negotiation plan that the US will sign 90 deals in 90 days. But let's get real, we all knew it was physically impossible. Even if you clone 1,000 Bessons or 1,000 Lutnicks, it won't happen. Things take time. And finally, after 45 days, Trump has given up. But he just threw a new curveball to the global economy. It's another one of his ultimatums. Donald Trump will be setting tariff rates for all US trading partners over the next few weeks. He's acting like the king of the world, dictating terms over everything. Now, he admits that the administration, the dream team, just don't have the capacity to negotiate deals with the world. And wasn't that obvious from the get go? So, here's the new arrangement. Trump will send his best friends, Lutnick and Besson, with letters in hand to countries, telling people this is the rate you have to pay to do business in the US. If this was the case, what was the point of trade negotiations? The entire 45 days was a joke, and even the UK deal was a clown show as well. Now, I'm not joking, this sounds unreal. It sounds like a shakedown where countries have to bend the knee. This is House Trump, and the words are tariffs and sanctions.
150 countries that want to make a deal, but you're not able to see that many countries. So at a certain point over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think Scott and Howard will be sending letters out, essentially telling people, it would be very fair, but we'll be telling people what they'll be paying to do business in the United States. So essentially be paying to be doing business in the United States. I guess you could say they could appeal it, but for the most part, I think we're going to be very fair. But it's not possible to meet the number of people that want to see us.
But can someone tell me what happens if countries decide to push back? I mean, seriously, what if country XYZ decide to say no? Not even Canada or the EU will take this line down. This is really the art of the deal, or is this really a last-ditch attempt to win a trade war? Will there be any trade negotiations after that as well? And looking at the tariff list again is looking really ridiculous. The US has the biggest trade deficit with China, and they revised the rate down to 30% today. However, many economies including Vietnam, Taiwan, Switzerland, Japan and Korea have tariffs higher or just below China's rate. How is Trump going to extract benefits from them? Because we all know the baseline tariff is going to be 10% at the very least. Is there even a point to be a US ally today? Even now, there's still a lot of haphazard planning from the administration. He's trying to short circuit the entire tariff war into a matter of weeks now. It's going to be yet another gamble, and this time, countries might not fall for the ploy. They have seen the aftermath of the UK and China deals, and playing hardball could just be the winning strategy. Now, take India for example. Trump says the country is willing to drop the tariffs to zero, but he still doesn't want Apple to build products in India, which obviously refers to iPhone manufacturing. And if that's the case, one way to hinder that is to maintain the original 26% tariff on Indian exports, and that will make Apple less likely to manufacture in the country. Smartphones made in China are amongst the exemption list, and if the rate in India isn't dropped, what's the point of moving production there? Now, is this part of Trump's 4D chess to keep China exports great? But what's clear is that the US is all about reshoring. They are not really interested in friend-shoring their production. Ever since Janet Yellen talked about friend-shoring industries, we said here many times it was just a ruse, and now the Trump admin has confirmed it. But let me know what you think. Will the global ban on Huawei work? And will Trump's final demand even succeed? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe as we navigate through these crazy times.